with a story that actually has everything to do with Cindy. Before we were married, she came to me one day. We were in the San Diego area attending the same church, and we were together, and she says, "I want to tell you something." And I said, "What's that?" And she said, "I had a vision or a dream. God gave me a very clear mental picture, if you will. And it was of the two of us. We weren't married yet, but of the two of us, Cindy and myself." She said, "Walking down a road, and down that pathway it went on for as far as the eye could see. It was lined with people on both sides." And she said, and God made it so clear to me that those were the people we were going to love and minister to together in the years that were in front of us. And we've been married now, how many years, Cindy? No, we got married in 1973. It's been 46 years. And thank you. And she was right. And God was right. And that was God. And we have gone down a path. And we're not done. The journey's not over. But so much of what that vision represented has to do with the parents and the kids and the people that you've loved along the way and that we've been able to love and serve together. So thank you so much for listening to the Lord back then and for listening to the Lord when I decided to hire you and for listening to the Lord every step along the way. I love you so much. That story represents something that has everything to do with what I want to share with you today. And it has to do with this fundamental question: why am I here? I remember as a little kid, I remember going to my dad and asking that kind of a question. I'd asked that question on numerous occasions. I said, "Where did everything come from?" And my dad would give the pat answer, "Well, God." And I said, "Well, who made God?" "I don't know," was kind of the answer. My parents weren't God-fearing or believing individuals. We didn't go to church. I wasn't taught the Bible at a young age, but those were the kinds of answers that I got. And then I would ask, why am I here? Like, how come I'm a person? Why am I alive? Why am I here? And it's a question that we all ask in one way or another. We might phrase it this way: what is my purpose in life? And for some of us, it's a question we're grappling with right now. Because as we go through life, this question comes up again and again. What is my purpose? Why am I here? What's God's plan for me? What am I to be about? What am I to do? Why do I exist? How is God wanting to work in my life? How does God want to lead me going forward? And it's a legitimate question, and it's one that I think is hardwired into us. It has something to do with us being created in God's image and being purposeful, intended by God to be purposeful beings, that we want our lives to matter, we want our lives to count, we want to be significant and make an impact on the world around us. And so it's an important question. It's the very question that underlies a lot of tragedy in our culture. I was talking recently with a friend about a mutual friend who just recently took his life. And we both knew him well enough to know that his answer to that question was a tragic one. I have no purpose. There's no reason for me to continue living. And that is so polar opposite of what God's answer to that question is. Because God created us as a race, and you as individuals, and me as an individual, for a very distinct and real purpose. And that purpose has to do with having a relationship with Him. An enjoyable one, which, we've emphasized today in terms of this block party. We believe with all our heart that a relationship with God, that following Jesus is supposed to be something you can enjoy. That it's not this humdrum, boring, cramp your style, strip all the fun out of life kind of thing. It's actually a rewarding relationship that is what we're designed to have, that God wants that kind of relationship with us, just like a father wants a great relationship with his kids in a healthy family environment. But unfortunately, sometimes we don't realize that and we miss the point. And so in our culture, unfortunately, the answers to this kind of a question, what is my purpose in life? Why am I here? Sometimes stray so far from what is actually the truth. And it's so important that you and I get it ourselves and then convey that to people as we walk through life together. Now, in order to answer this question a little more fully, I want to go to a place in God's Word that we're going to go to in a moment, but I want to go there with an understanding. I referenced the idea that a father would want to have a relationship with his kids, and that is in a healthy family environment. That's the truth. Parents have kids so they can enjoy those kids, so they can have a relationship with those kids, so they can love those kids, and hopefully have those kids love them back. Now, that doesn't always happen, of course, but that's the point. And it's no different with God. In fact, it's not only the same with God, it's infinitely more so with him, because this whole idea of him being our Heavenly Father and us being his kids was his idea in the first place. Now, I say all that because when a parent puts restrictions or parameters on their kids, or when a parent gives their kids rules to follow, it's hopefully out of love. I had a conversation with my oldest grandson. He went with us on a trip recently for a couple of days, and we were talking about some of the camping trips that we've done, and we talked about how camping trips, when we go camping, it's no rules camping. And by that we mean, you don't have to brush your teeth necessarily or, pick up after yourself. It's just like, have fun, right? No rules camping. And he quickly responded back and he says, oh, it's not no rules camping. There are rules. And he then began to enumerate the rules. So you can ride your bike in the loop. You have to check in before going any further than around the loop. And he started, and we realized, yeah, actually those are the rules. At the campground, there are certain things that are in place. And so I kind of was backpedaling and I said, yeah, well, but those are all designed to help you be safe. And I realized it was a pretty lame position I was taking because no rules camping really isn't no rules, right? Because rules are intended to keep us safe and to keep life enjoyable and to make things manageable and to, in the context of a relationship, to foster that relationship in the best way possible. Well, that's true. And so not only in our family lives, but that's true in our relationship with God. In other words, let's put it this way. God tells us the best way to live because he loves us so much. So when God says, this is how it is, it's because he loves us and cares about us. When you tell your kid, don't put your hand in the flame, be careful around the campfire, watch out for traffic, look both ways before you cross. Why are we doing that? Because we love our kids so much and we want to protect them and cause their life to be the best that it can possibly be. And it's no different with God. Now, with that in mind, let's go to a place in Matthew chapter 22 where Jesus is asked a question. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Now, he had an ulterior motive in asking the question, but Jesus masterfully seized the opportunity to make a very powerful and profound point. He replied, verse 37, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, the next verse tells us. Jesus is saying this is the pinnacle. This is the first and the greatest commandment. And then he goes on, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Now, that's probably not new to most of us in the room. It may be new to you, and if it is, I hope that's understood by you as the good news that it is. What God wants is for us to love him and to love people. In fact, that's the answer to the question we started with. Why am I here? I'm here to love God, and I'm here to love people. I did a memorial service yesterday for Evie Leib. Some of you have been hanging around long enough to know that her family, Evie and Bill and their kids, are part of our church going back many, many years. And Bill had since passed away, and Evie recently passed away. And we did a memorial service. And as part of my responsibility to officiate over that service, I was handed quite a few things that had been handwritten and typed out that family members and loved ones had prepared ahead of time. And they didn't want to share them, but they wanted me to read them. And so I did. So I'm reading several things from several different individuals. And then we had an open microphone time, and several more people shared things about Evie. Now, some of you I realize don't know Bill and Evie, and you're not sure who I'm talking about or their family. But understand this, because it's not just unique to the memorial I did yesterday. I see it over and over and over again. When someone we love passes away and we go to celebrate their life, we don't focus on achievements or accomplishments or possessions or how many letters are after their name in terms of college education or how much money was in the bank when they passed away or those kinds of things. Sometimes that stuff gets mentioned, but the real focus, predictably, every time is on how they loved friends and family, and how friends and family love them, and about those relationships over the years. And yesterday's memorial was no exception. When your life is over and when my life is over, top of the list, the two most important things that are going to matter are our love for God and our love for people. That's it. All the other stuff is secondary. Sure, I understand it's part of life in this world, and it's got its place. But all together in a list, all by themselves, are the two most important things. And when Jesus says this, that the first is to love God with all your heart, and the second is to love your neighbor as yourself, he's saying that because he knows that's the best way to live life. He knows that you're hardwired for that. And once again, I reference the fact that over the years, Cindy has taught me so much about how to love people unconditionally. In fact, in the early years, she taught me a whole lot about how to understand the love of my Father in heaven and the fact that he loves me unconditionally. She was instrumental in God working those things into my life. And in fact, one of the reasons I was attracted to Cindy in the first place, one of many reasons, was because I sensed intuitively that she loved me with an unconditional love. And I'll tell you what, unconditional love is contagious. Unconditional love is amazing. Unconditional love is compelling. Unconditional love is irresistible. And when you get the idea that God actually loves you unconditionally, you respond to that. You respond to that. And people that have no use for God or walk away from God or say, I don't want any part, I don't want anything to do with God. I don't want him in my life. Don't understand the irresistible, wonderful, grace-filled, mercy-filled, unconditional love with which he loves each and every one of us. Because when you get that, you respond to that. That's compelling. And when people are loved that way, they respond to it as well. Think about the people that you enjoy being around the most. Think about the people that you've responded to over the years. Think about the person that maybe you chose to marry. Think about the people that you've decided to have as friends. And I guarantee you the common thread will be unconditional love in those relationships. We tend to shy away from conditional love and be drawn to unconditional love, and it's no different when it comes to God. One of the things that we just experienced as Cindy was being honored, and rightfully so, is an illustration of exactly what I'm talking about. What did all those people in the video refer to? What is it that we love about Cindy? What is it that she exemplifies for us? It's loving God and loving people and doing so with her whole heart. Knowing that God loves her unconditionally and loving people that same way. No, none of us is perfect at it, but I'll tell you what, when we embrace that and walk in that and ask God to help us get better at that, then we end up making a difference in the world around us. In other words, and we put it this way in a recent message, but it was so helpful to have it this succinct. I just want to remind us that what we're talking about here is this: love everyone, always. And some of you didn't realize why I hesitated. Love everyone. Always. Love who? Everyone. Always. Yeah, that's that annoying person at work that's included in. That's that in-law that you can't hardly stand, that you hope doesn't come to the family functions because you don't like being around them. But you get to love always. That's that person that's hurt your feelings or betrayed you or rejected you or in some other way violated the relationship or the trust that you have in that relationship. And the Lord would still say to you, let's come at it from a little bit different angle, because in situations where it's challenging, now, see, for me to love Cindy is not hard because we have a love relationship and she loves me unconditionally, but to love those other people that sometimes I don't have that great a relationship with, I'm challenged just like you are by this admonition. So in those situations, there's a question that I ask myself sometimes. In fact, when I don't ask myself this question, I make poor decisions. And here's the question: what does love require of me in this relationship? That applies to your relationship with God. Like if I'm going to love God with all my heart, Jesus said that's the most important thing. Well, what does love require of me to do in my relationship with God at this point? Where I am in life, where I am on my journey, where I am in this place of my spiritual development, what does it mean for me to love God in this situation? What's the loving thing to do? And God often ties love to faith, and he ties love to keeping his commandments or obedience. To take seriously the things that he's telling us about how to live our life because he knows that's how life should be lived. What does love require of me in this relationship that I have at work? What does love require of me in this relationship I have at home, in the family? Kids, you should ask yourself this question. If you love your parents, what does love require of you? In other words, what's the loving thing for you to do? What is the loving thing for you to say? What is the loving way for you to be in the relationship that you are being challenged by? And it applies to all of us all the time because it's love everyone. See, now, it's just because it's not on the screen. It's only 3 words, people. It's not that hard. Love everyone. Always. All right. Now, I want to come at this from a different angle because for me, this is the exciting part. When it comes to a relationship with God, the most important thing for us to understand is that a relationship with God, that salvation, that being born again, in other words, being destined for an eternity in heaven, doesn't come about as a result of us doing good works, trying harder, or doing good deeds for other people. We can't earn any of that. We don't deserve it. We can't qualify for the free gift that God wants to give us in terms of the forgiveness of our sin, a relationship with him, a destiny of heaven, and the kind of life that he intended for us here and now. All of that is a free gift from him, and it's spelled out lots of places in the Bible. One of my favorite is Ephesians chapter 2. Paul the Apostle is writing to believers in the city of Ephesus, and he says, "For it is by grace," that's the undeserved, unearned, unearnable generosity of God. It is by grace you have been saved through faith. That's all you ever did was you just believed. You said, okay, sign me up, I'm in. And this is not from yourselves, it is the gift of God, not of works. And I highlighted that because works are good deeds. It's like if I try harder and I do better, I can't try hard enough and do better enough to qualify. It is not on the basis of works that I'm saved. It's purely God's grace so that no one can boast. In other words, when we all get there, guess what? We're all going to have the same story. I didn't deserve to be here, but I'm here by the grace of God. And none of us is going to go like, yeah, hey, look at me. I made it here all on my own. God just set it up so that nobody can do that. But here's the part that's exciting to me. It's the verse that follows. It's why God spells this stuff out and why he works in our lives the way that he does, because he has a plan. Verse 10, "For we are God's masterpiece." Another translation says workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do what? See, good works don't get you in the kingdom. Good works don't get you in God's family. Good works don't qualify you for forgiveness or eternal life. But once you are in, once you have a relationship with him, once you're in the kingdom of God or in the family of God, then good works are the point. They flow out of a relationship with God. They're not the pathway to a relationship with God. We are God's masterpiece, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. In other words, there's a pathway lined with people, and you're walking on it. And they're the people in your lives, in your family, in your neighborhood, in your work environment, in this church, people that you know from the community, and they're on both sides of the path that you're walking on. And God has so worked in your life that he wants to use you to love those people well, to love them in his name. They're good works. What are good works? I mean, what's a good deed? What's a good work that you do? It's a way of loving people. If I give money, if I take time to serve, whatever I do, I'm doing it out of love. And it's that love that we're talking about. And now there are lots of ways for us to love. That's part of the reason we're doing the rooted groups. I want to encourage you to take to heart what Kyle shared and what you saw in the video. The potential for your life to be transformed and the lives of others to be transformed as a result of that is huge through this rooted experience that we're going into starting next Sunday. And I want you to be a part of that. In other words, what's going to happen for you, if you put some investment into it, if you sign up and take it seriously, you're going to develop a greater capacity to love God and a greater capacity to love people. And as a result of that, your impact on people's lives and the impact that they in turn have on other people's lives is going to be increased dramatically. The potential to fulfill your purpose is optimal through the Rooted experience, and I want to encourage you to take full advantage of that. There's another opportunity to love people well, another good work which God has prepared in advance for us to do, and that has to do with our Bite to Go program. The Bite to Go program, that is the way that kids at our neighbor elementary school, Trent Elementary, our partner, our neighbor, 500 and some odd kids that we love, many of whom come from disadvantaged homes, many of whom don't have food on the weekend, through the Bite to Go program that we've partnered with for years now. Food can be sent home every school Friday for the weekend, food that kid can eat without any preparation, without any parent helping them, ready to eat food. And it's a wonderful program. And I want to encourage you, if you haven't already, to go to our website and sign up or take an envelope and write a check today. It only takes $20 a month for 9 months. That's $180. Or you can do what I did, and you just write a check for the whole year for a student and do it all at once and know that there's at least one more student that will go home with food because you decided to love people generously like God loves you. In other words, it's an opportunity to do a good work. And I just want to remind you that these are prepared for us in advance. Cindy, when you had that vision of us walking down that pathway, God had already prepared this moment today. We didn't have any clue that this moment would happen, but it was part of his plan. The good works God prepares in advance for us to do. That just takes all the stress out of it. Like, God, what is it you want me to do today? What good thing have you prepared for me to do today? In other words, in what way can I love people well? Because that's why I'm here, to love you, God, and to love people. Love you, love people, love you, love people, love everyone always. So the good works that I do are going to be an expression of love. So what good thing can I do today? How can I love somebody today? And not just me on my own figuring it out, but Lord, you must have prepared something in advance for me to do. What is that today? And often, if we just pay attention, we're being presented with those opportunities, just like you were a few moments ago when I talked about Rooted and I talked about the students at Trent. But it requires us to take action. Love isn't just a feeling or a thought or something we believe. Love does. In fact, it's not love until you do. So I want to encourage us all. In answer to the question, why am I here? Why are you here? You're here to love God. That means doing something about your relationship with him. And love people. That means doing something about your relationships with people. Now, for some of us, perhaps we've gotten so far down the pathway, we're thinking, I just don't know. I'm kind of overwhelmed because I've lived my life a very different way for a very long time, and it just seems like it's too late to make a lot of course corrections, and there's some decisions I can't undo, and your focus is in the rearview mirror of your life. I want to encourage you to just take the rearview mirror of your life and yank it off and throw it away and look through the windshield of your life, because what God's interested in is what is in front of you, not what's behind you. And even the stuff that's behind you that you regret and that you know was you spending your life chasing a whole lot of other things that are not near as important as loving God and loving people. Here's what God says about what he can do with that part that is in your past. Romans chapter 8, verse 28, we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. In other words, he can take the mistakes and the wrong turns and the misguided decisions and the foolishness of our past. He can take that and fold that into something that's good going forward. And that's, after all, what he wants for all of us. So the question I'm going to leave you with today is, what does love require of me in this relationship? What does love require of me in this relationship? And then, to sum it up, one final time, say it with me. Love everyone